The courtroom was silent, except for the sound of a white cop chuckling under his breath. He looked at the young black teen in handcuffs like he was garbage. But what he didn't know is that the same boy he mocked would one day sit above him, robed, powerful, and holding his fate in his hands. The year was 2008. 16-year-old Elijah King sat stiffly on the cold metal bench, his wrists raw from the cuffs that bit into his skin. His eyes scanned the courtroom, worn wooden benches, peeling paint, and a smell of sweat and old carpet. Next to him stood Officer Ray Donaldson, a tall, burly cop with a permanent sneer. He wasn't hiding his amusement. His laughter slipped out as he leaned over to the prosecutor and muttered, "Bet this one ends up dead or in prison before 21. Elijah heard it. Every word. But he didn't flinch. He'd been arrested on charges of resisting arrest and disturbing the peace. His real crime: asking why he was being stopped while walking home with a bag of books. No drugs. No weapon. Just a hoodie, a question, and brown skin. "I told you to shut up, boy," Officer Donaldson had barked before throwing him to the pavement. His knee had pressed against Elijah's neck for longer than it should have, and his badge had flashed with impunity. The judge barely glanced at Elijah before setting bail his single mother couldn't afford. Just like that, he was tossed into juvie, weeks in a cell for a crime he didn't commit. But Elijah wasn't ordinary. Every night he read law books, civil rights cases, the Constitution. He memorized Gideon versus Wainwright, Brown versus Board, Loving versus Virginia. While other boys played spades or stared at the ceiling, Elijah was writing briefs in his head. He swore that day, "I'll never let someone feel this powerless again." By 23, Elijah had graduated law school. By 24, he passed the bar, first try. By 26, he was known across the state for defending wrongfully accused black youth. Judges, prosecutors, even cops began to take notice. But someone else noticed too: Officer Donaldson. He'd climbed ranks over the years. A promotion here, a favor there. Now a decorated police captain with decades of service, and a file full of complaints from black and brown civilians. But none of those stuck. He was untouchable. Until one case changed everything. A 17-year-old named Jalen Moore had been beaten during a traffic stop and falsely charged with assaulting an officer. The body cam malfunctioned. The bruises? Blamed on resisting. Elijah took the case. In court, the room felt familiar. The same wooden benches. The same paint. But now, Elijah stood tall in a tailored navy blue suit. Confident. Power in his voice. Officer Donaldson swaggered in as a witness, barely glancing at Elijah, until their eyes locked. He squinted. His smirk faded. "Wait, is that?" Elijah didn't blink. "Good to see you again, officer." The trial was brutal. Elijah exposed patterns: body cam failures, racial profiling, disciplinary records buried by internal affairs. Exhibit after exhibit. Case after case. The jury gasped. Reporters scribbled notes. When the verdict came back not guilty, the courtroom erupted. But Elijah wasn't done. He filed a civil rights suit. Donaldson was placed on administrative leave. His past came crashing down. Lawsuits piled up. The city opened a formal investigation. And Elijah? He kept rising. In 2024, at just 32, Elijah King was nominated and unanimously confirmed as the youngest judge in state history. His appointment made national news. From jail cell to judge's bench, they said. A full circle of justice. But the most powerful moment came at his first court session. Officer Ray Donaldson, now stripped of badge and rank, was summoned for a misconduct hearing. The room was full, and there he was, standing at the defendant's table, eyes sunken, uniform traded for a wrinkled gray suit. Elijah entered the chamber, robed in black. He paused, looked Donaldson in the eye. The room held its breath. Then, softly but firmly, Elijah said, "Court is now in session." No smile, no smirk, just justice. Let this story remind you. You never know who you're standing over today, because tomorrow they may rise above you. Racism tries to crush potential, to silence ambition, to cage brilliance. But some flames only burn brighter under pressure. Elijah King didn't just survive the system. He reformed it from within. He turned pain into purpose, chains into robes, and hatred into history. But just when Elijah thought his past was behind him, a sealed case file lands on his desk. An anonymous letter inside reads, "You put away the wrong man, and now someone wants revenge." Cut to black. Drop your comments and tell us, what would you do if the person who hurt you now stood before you, powerless? He opened the letter with trembling hands. Inside was a name he hadn't heard in 16 years, and a warning that made his blood run cold. Judge Elijah King sat alone in chambers, the walls around him filled with framed degrees and plaques, but his eyes were fixed on the yellow envelope before him. No return address, no markings, just a single word scrawled on the front. Truth. Inside, a neatly folded page. You put away the wrong man. The real killer is still out there. Look into case #08-423. And be careful. Not everyone wants justice. Signed only. An old friend. Elijah's fingers tightened around the page. Case number 08-423. He hadn't heard that number in years. It was his first major juvenile defense victory, the case that put him on the map. A 17-year-old boy named Marquis Taylor was exonerated of a convenience store robbery that had ended in a clerk's death. Elijah had proved Marquis was targeted due to a false eyewitness account and police misconduct. Officer Ray Donaldson had been one of the arresting officers. Elijah had fought for that verdict. He believed in Marquis. He still did, but the letter said otherwise. That night, Elijah broke every rule. He pulled the sealed file from archive storage himself. Late hours. No clerks. Just him and his past. He read through the witness statements, crime scene photos, timeline inconsistencies, and something strange jumped out. A second name. Tobias Kane, a witness who had never testified. No explanation. Just a sealed deposition flagged by Internal Affairs and blacked out by the DA's office. Why? And why was Donaldson's name scribbled in the margins, marked with, "Do not pursue further, per captain's order"? Elijah's pulse quickened. Had they covered up the real killer and framed a kid instead? Had he unknowingly helped? He had to know. Elijah tracked down Marquis Taylor, now 33. They met in a small diner just outside the city. Marquis looked different, older, quieter. The brightness in his eyes was dimmed. Life had taken its toll. "You believe I did it?" he asked quietly, stirring his coffee. Elijah shook his head. "No, but I need to know who did." Marquis paused, looked around, then leaned in. "I told you back then. I didn't shoot nobody, but I saw who ran." Elijah's heart skipped. Marquis continued. "There was another kid. Didn't live in the neighborhood. Rich. White." He panicked. Dropped the gun. "Ben." "I tried to tell the cops, but..." He looked away. Officer Donaldson said if I talked, I'd disappear. Elijah felt sick. "Who was it?" Marquis shook his head. "I don't know his name, but he had a tattoo, wrapped around a gavel." Back at the courthouse, Elijah dug into the archives again. Cross-referenced juvenile records with private school attendees near the crime scene from back in '08. One name popped. Sebastian Lowell, son of a powerful local judge. No record of arrest, but a juvenile incident sealed by court order, right around the time of Marquis case. Elijah's stomach turned. He knew the name. Judge Martin Lowell, now retired, was the man who had laughed when Elijah first stood in court as a teen defendant. The same man who'd once called Elijah an articulate exception. His son was protected, while Marquis spent years behind bars for a crime he didn't commit. Just as Elijah began preparing a motion to reopen the case, he received another envelope. This one wasn't delivered. It was slid under his door. Inside was a photograph of Elijah's mother, grocery bags in hand, walking to her car. On the back, "Stop digging, or she gets buried next." Elijah's hands shook. The system he fought so hard to join was still protecting its own, and now it was turning against him. But he had one last card to play. At the next court session, Elijah requested emergency protection for his mother and transferred jurisdiction of the reopened case to federal oversight, quietly. He knew someone in the department was still covering tracks. Someone close. But what he didn't expect was the visitor that night. As he closed his chambers, a familiar voice echoed behind him. "Long time, kid." He turned. Ray Donaldson. Older now. Eyes sunken, but still carrying that smug weight. "I told you once," Donaldson said. "Some things are above your pay grade." Elijah stared. "I know what you did," he replied. Donaldson smiled. "Cold. Dangerous. And what are you gonna do, Your Honor?" He stepped forward, then whispered, "You think you're the judge, but you're still just a pawn." And just like that, he was gone. That night, Elijah couldn't sleep. His phone buzzed. An unknown number. One message. "If you want the truth, meet me at the old precinct. Midnight. Come alone." He stared at the screen, then grabbed his coat and his father's old Bible. Because if he was going into the lion's den, he'd need more than just law. He'd need faith. Now Elijah has a choice to make, and a midnight meeting that might change everything. Midnight. Abandoned precinct. No lights. No sound. Just one man walking toward the truth. And maybe straight into a trap. The building stood like a corpse. Cold, empty, forgotten. Judge Elijah King parked across the street. No lights. No marked cars. He checked his phone again. The message was still there. "If you want the truth, come alone." He slipped the old Bible into his coat pocket, not because he planned to preach, but because it had belonged to his father, the only man who ever told him, "Son, no matter how far into the dark they push you, carry the light with you." He stepped inside. The precinct smelled of mildew and dust. Paint peeled like dead skin from the walls. Elijah's footsteps echoed in the silence. Then he heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. Coming from the back office. A shadow appeared. A man stepped forward. Gray hoodie. Face in shadow. "Elijah King," the voice rasped. "I didn't think you'd show." "Who are you?" Elijah demanded. The man pulled his hood back. Tobias Kane. The name from the sealed deposition. He looked ragged. Hair grown out. Eyes hollowed from years of hiding. "I was there the night Marquis got arrested," he said. "I told the cops what really happened, and they shut me up." "You saw who pulled the trigger?" Elijah asked. Tobias nodded. "Sebastian Lowell." Elijah felt his chest tighten. He was right. "But that's not all," Tobias continued. "There's video. Security footage from a nearby ATM. It showed Sebastian running, dropping the gun." "Where is it now?" Tobias hesitated. "I made a copy, but someone's been following me ever since. I stashed it in a safety deposit box. And I think someone's watching you too." Elijah's voice was low. "Who?" Tobias looked him dead in the eye. "The same people who made you a judge." The weight of the words hit Elijah like a blow. All these years, all the cases, all the victories. Was he just a figurehead? A token of progress while the corruption ran even deeper? He remembered the day the governor offered him the judgeship. The way certain influential names pushed for him. Was it just to silence him? To keep the truth buried? Suddenly, crash. A window shattered from the side. Tobias shoved Elijah behind a desk. "They found us," he yelled. 3 shadows rushed in. Flashlights, tactical vests, unmarked, not police, fixers. Gunshots cracked through the empty precinct. Tobias fired back from behind cover. Elijah, go. Take this. He shoved a flash drive into Elijah's coat. If I don't make it, get this to someone who can expose it. Elijah bolted through the back door, glass shattering around him. Outside, he barely escaped down the alley, sirens in the distance, his breath ragged. He didn't stop running. Elijah sat in a borrowed apartment, blinds drawn. His mother had been moved to protective custody. Tobias was gone, either captured or worse. He stared at the flash drive in his hand. The truth was inside, but exposing it would tear down people in power. Judges, officers, maybe even the governor. He needed someone he could trust. So he made a call. Detective Camilla Brooks, answered the voice on the other end. A name he hadn't said in years. An old ally. One of the few clean cops left. I have something, and I think it might get us both killed. Then it must be worth something, she replied. They met in an underground garage that night. Elijah handed her the flash. Camilla plugged it into a laptop. What they saw made her mouth drop open. Video footage. Crystal clear. Sebastian Lowell, 17 years old, running from the scene, gun in hand. Behind him, a black SUV, license plate, partially visible. Camilla paused the video, zoomed in, and what they saw made Elijah stumble back. The plate didn't just belong to anyone. It belonged to Captain Roland Hayes, head of internal affairs, the man responsible for overseeing every investigation of police misconduct in the state, and the man who helped appoint Elijah to the bench. Just then, Camilla's phone buzzed. A single text from an unknown number. You should have stayed quiet. You have 24 hours to destroy the flash drive, or your friend won't be the only one to disappear. Attached was a photo. Tobias Kane, bound, bruised, eyes wide with fear. Behind him, a clock. 11:59 p.m. Counting down. Will Elijah go public and risk everything? Or will the truth die in the shadows once again? Can Elijah still trust Camilla? Drop your comments below and don't forget to subscribe. Elijah has 24 hours to choose. Protect his life or expose the truth. They told him to stay silent. They gave him power just to keep him tame. But now, the system's most dangerous pawn has slipped the leash, and what he does next could burn it all to the ground. Elijah King hadn't slept. Every second ticked like a hammer in his chest. The image of Tobias's face was seared into his mind. Camilla Brooks paced the room, her jaw clenched. We go to the press, she said. They'll spin it, Elijah replied. Say the footage is fake. Discredit Tobias. And if Captain Hayes gets wind of it, Tobias is dead. Camilla sighed. Then we need leverage. And someone bigger than Hayes. That's when Elijah remembered. Judge Langston, the man who mentored him. A civil rights icon. Retired now, but still respected in every court in the state. And more importantly, untouchable. The old man answered the door in a wool robe, cane in hand. Elijah King, he muttered. I heard the system might try to eat you alive. Looks like I was right. Elijah handed him the flash drive. Let the video play. Langston's face didn't flinch. Not once. When it was over, he poured 3 fingers of bourbon into a glass and took a slow sip. They're scared of you, he said. Scared of what happens when someone like you stops playing nice. Then help me, Elijah said. Langston nodded. I can call in a few markers. From people who owe me their careers. But if we're doing this, you need to understand, this is war. Langston worked the phones. By 2 p.m., Elijah had a burner laptop and access to 3 trusted journalists. Camilla had contacted a judge with jurisdiction over federal law enforcement. Someone outside Hayes's influence. The plan. Release the footage and affidavits through encrypted channels. Force a hearing through judicial pressure and public outcry. Get Tobias out before midnight. But there was one more player they hadn't accounted for. Sebastian Lowell, the killer. Now a 26-year-old hedge fund golden boy. Protected, powerful, and now desperate. Because that video could put him behind bars for life. Elijah sent Sebastian a private message through an encrypted legal contact. I know what you did. I know what they covered up. And I'm giving you one chance to come clean. An hour later, a reply came. Careful, Judge. The higher you climb, the harder you fall. Maybe your ghetto little miracle story is about to hit a wall. Attached, a photo. Elijah's mother. At her church. Taken just minutes earlier. The gloves were off. Camila's safe house was raided. The flash drive stolen. But they had backups. Multiple. Langston had already delivered one to a federal clerk. And that meant Hayes was panicking. Because if Tobias spoke, and the footage went public, Hayes, Sebastian, and several high-ranking officers would be finished. But time was running out. A call came through. Scrambled. Anonymous line. Tobias. I escaped, he whispered, breathless. But they're coming. Elijah, they know you leaked it. They're going to try to kill you tonight. Where are you? Silence. Then a soft. Somewhere close. You'll know where to find me. Where the story began. He hung up. It hit Elijah like lightning. The old juvenile courtroom. The same place where Ray Donaldson first laughed in his face. Where Marquis had almost been buried by the system. That was the place. Where the story began. He grabbed his coat, nodded to Camila. Get the car. We're going back. They arrived at the crumbling juvenile courthouse. Empty. Dark. Except a single light flickered inside the main chamber. Elijah stepped through the broken door. Inside, Tobias stood at the bench. Bloody, limping, but alive. He held a phone. Record this, he said. All of it. I'm naming names. Just as Elijah pulled out his phone, a spotlight flooded the chamber. Red dot. Laser sight. Fixed right on Tobias's chest. A voice boomed through a speaker. You should have stayed buried, Tobias. And you, Judge King, you're about to learn how deep this rabbit hole really goes. Will Tobias live long enough to tell the truth? And just how far will the system go to protect its secrets? They tried to kill the truth. But truth doesn't die. It waits, buried in the silence, until someone brave enough digs it out and puts it on the stand. This is the story of that someone. Tobias stood beneath the ghostly spotlight in the abandoned juvenile courtroom, trembling but defiant. Elijah raised his hand slowly, shielding Tobias as the laser sight hovered over his chest. From the darkness, footsteps echoed. Captain Hayes emerged, flanked by two masked men, clearly not cops. Mercenaries. You had your fun, Judge, Hayes sneered. Now it's time we clean this mess up, once and for all. Camila, hidden behind a broken pew, silently dialed her phone. One ring, two rings, until it connected. Federal agents were listening. But before Hayes could give the order, Elijah stepped forward. Come. Steady. Go ahead, he said. Kill us. But before you do, I want you to hear something. He pulled a small device from his pocket. Hit play. It was Hayes's voice, from the blackmail tapes Tobias had stolen before escaping. Make the charges disappear. Bury that kid's file. I don't care how many laws you break. Just protect Sebastian. Hayes's face turned ghost white. Tobias raised his phone, live streaming on a backup app Camila had set up earlier. Over 20,000 people watching. The chat exploded. Corrupt cops exposed. Justice for Marquis. Protect the judge and witness. Hayes screamed. Shut that off. But it was too late. Sirens pierced the silence. Federal agents stormed in. Hayes tried to run. But Elijah blocked the exit. "The system raised me to lose," Elijah said. "But I chose not to." Hayes, indicted on 27 federal charges. Sebastian Lowell, arrested, disgraced, sentenced. The department, purged, reformed under new leadership. Tobias, placed under protection, now studying law. Camila Brooks, appointed special prosecutor for civil rights. And Elijah, still the youngest judge in state history. But now, something more. At a city press conference, Elijah stood before the podium. Thousands watched. Cameras rolled. And in his deep, firm voice, he delivered one final message. "I was once a boy told by a laughing cop that I'd never amount to anything. I've been handcuffed, humiliated, and almost silenced. But I want every kid watching this to understand something. Your worth isn't decided by the uniform someone else wears. Your future isn't decided by the zip code you're born in. The system can be wrong. And when it is, you have every right to change it. Stand tall. Speak loud. Fight smart. Because the courtroom isn't just where justice is handed out, it's where history is made." Applause erupted. Elijah glanced up. In the back of the crowd, a little boy sat on his mother's shoulders, watching him with wide, hopeful eyes. Elijah smiled. "Don't just survive the system. Outgrow it. Outfight it. Then turn around and burn the path behind you so no one else has to walk through fire." Or is it? Because just as Elijah returned to chambers, a mysterious envelope sat on his desk. No return address. No postmark. Inside, a single Polaroid photo of Elijah as a child, inside a file labeled Experimental Case 147. The back read, "You thought this was the beginning? This was just phase 1. If you like this video, subscribe, like and turn on your notification for more. Thanks for watching.